Hello, everybody, and welcome to the very first podcast episode of the No Haters Club. If you don't know me, I'm Claudia Campbell. I am an influencer, TikToker, and Instagrammer. I don't know if that's what you would say, but I am so excited that you have decided to join me, and I hope that you choose to become a part of the No Haters Club. A podcast is something that I think I always knew that I was going to do one day, but I kind of limited myself and thought, well, I couldn't do that right now. I'm too young. I need a better audience, a better viewing. And then what really compelled me is God was like, Claudia, people want to hear things from you. I've given you a voice, and I do believe one of my spiritual gifts is speaking. And he's like, Claudia, talk about your experiences. Use what I've given you. Do not silence yourself because you're too young, because you're not adequate enough, etc. And so I really wanted to just share, before we dive into the topic today, a little bit about my mission behind this podcast. A lot of people have been asking me to start a podcast, and so I think too that's one of the reasons why I was able to just be like, okay, yeah, we're going to do this. And at one point I was like, I'm really busy, maybe I'll put it off to the summer. And God was like, Claudia, you have everything you need. Start it right now. So this is the setup that we have right now. I am in the cream chair today. I'm filming this on a Thursday, but you will be listening to this on a Tuesday. My day has gone pretty well. I mean, I had a math test today, and it was probably one of the worst math tests I've ever taken, but I just decided, you know what? I'm going to do the best I can on it. I studied however much I studied. I learned the material however much I did. There's really no reason to stress or worry about it. And in life, I think that is a skill that I've learned has really helped me. Instead of just worrying about something, instead of getting all up in my head about it, I choose to say, you know what? There's nothing I can do about it. So I'm just going to move on and do the best I can right now. And so if you're listening to this podcast, you might be thinking, Claudia, why did you name your podcast the No Haters Club? What in the world? And so the backstory around all of this is everybody, it doesn't matter if you're young, if you're old, short, tall, like whatever walk of life you're in, everybody has haters. Everybody has people who tell them that they don't approve of what they're doing, or maybe that they do approve of what they're doing, but they have haters. Everybody has haters. I've been able to see a lot of haters through social media, through my work in social media, but the whole idea of having haters was not foreign to me, even whenever I had haters on social media, even whenever I got more hate comments. Like, I have always struggled with haters, and I know you have too. And I think one of the things that the enemy likes for us to do is think that we're alone. Like, I'm the only one who gets hate on. I'm the only one who people don't approve of, or people make comments to me, but you're not. And so I really wanted this to be a place where people can come together and be like, yeah, I have haters too. Yeah, I have haters too. But how do we live 100% who God called us to be, despite all of the noise of the haters? And so I really just want to take us through some real life topics, some real life, some real world type of issues, I guess. And how do we handle haters in all of life? How are we able to just 100% say, you know what, it doesn't matter what the haters think. I'm going to live out how God made me to be. So we're going to just be talking about life. We're going to have some fun episodes sprinkled here and there where you can just laugh. And we're also going to have some really cool guests on. I am so ecstatic. I cannot wait for some of the guests that we're about to have. And some of the topics that I really want us to cover, we're going to be talking about relationships, friendships, singleness, the toxicity, and the benefit of social media, how to handle that, being a light just in our culture, body image, mental health. And I think we're going to have some really cool guests talk about those things. There's also going to be a lot of more. Those are just a few of the topics I think I'm going to have planned. But about me, like I said, I am a Christian. I'm also an influencer. I think I have the biggest following probably on TikTok, and I am the Claudia Campbell on TikTok if you want to follow me. And I also just started getting more into Instagram. I love Instagram. If you want to follow me, I am Claudia Campbell with 5 L's because somebody already took Claudia Campbell. Like, lame. Come on, get a better life. And then I also have been posting more on YouTube and that's going to be, I think it's the Claudia Campbell. Yeah. And then, of course, follow the podcast Instagram page, the No Haters Club podcast. You can always, the DMs are always open there. I would love to have questions, comments, topic ideas. If there's something you're struggling with, literally rant in the podcast Instagram DM section. Like, please do. And I would love anonymously at the end of some of these episodes to really tackle some of those questions, because I want this to be a community thing. I don't just want this to be a me. I'm only talking to myself. And also, this is a solo episode today. But like I said, I do really want to be alternating guest episodes and solo podcast episodes, because I love podcasts where there are guests. I'm back. I had to deal with my camera. It was about to die. But back to what I was saying, if there are questions, things that you really want me to talk about, it could be as intense and as detailed as you want it to be. I will not tell a soul. I will not let the podcasters know it was even you. I will just say something from an anonymous person, and that way you can keep all of your secrets safe. But I have found that sometimes those things do help me, because if I reach out to somebody who's anonymous, who I know gives good advice, sometimes I can get the advice I want without having to feel uncomfortable about it. I really do want us to build a community, though, which is why I would love to answer some of the questions or the concerns you had. Whatever it is, you could just tell me about how your Tuesday went. I don't care what it is. But if you listen, if you post that your favorite episode or your favorite note from this episode, then I would love to repost you on the No Haters Club podcast. I think that would just be awesome. I really do want to be your podcast bestie on Tuesdays. I want you to be excited, because Claudia is going to be in your earbuds, whether it's your workout, on your way to the gym, on your way to school. I know that I love podcasts so much, and I think that this one really is going to give a lot of wisdom. So I can't wait to see what happens. So let's get into the episode today. Today's topic, I think, is only fitting because we are talking about being a people pleaser, talking about really carrying the weight of other people's opinions. And I thought this would be the best one to start out the No Haters Club podcast, because we're talking about haters in this episode, specifically for the people pleasers. I have been a people pleaser, a chronic people pleaser, for I don't even know how long, since I was little. And I have just found that caring so much about what other people think of me cripples me, to the point where whenever I get into this mindset, I have trouble doing what it is that even I want to do, because I'm so concerned, what are other people going to think about this? What are other people going to think about this? If you don't struggle with people pleasing as much, then that's okay. Listen to this episode, because even if you don't idolize people's opinion of you, everybody struggles with how people view them. Literally everybody. This is not something that just one set of people struggle with, but I think we handle it in different ways. And so we have a tendency to say, oh, well, you're only a people pleaser if you're a pushover. That's not always the case. I think it's more about how you feel to the core of your being whenever people say stuff about you. How do we deal with the hate comments that people say whenever you do something and people respond to it in a negative way, or when they respond to it in a positive way, and then all of a sudden you're chasing after that hit time and time again? It's a very real thing, and I struggle with it, but I will say there is hope. You do not have to live in that forever. I used to be really bad at this, and it was a focus spot that I really targeted in my walk with Christ. Just, God, will you please teach me how to get better at focusing on what you think of me and not what I think about me? And he has helped me a lot. Do I struggle with it? Absolutely, I do. But I can truly say now I'm at a point where I think that I'm a lot more comfortable in my own skin. I'm a lot more confident. And so I would just love to share the tips with you in this episode that God has used to really help me. And I think at first it's just a few realizations. And the first one is, it is hard to be yourself whenever you're listening to the opinion of others. I would get so lost in other people's opinions of me that I couldn't even be myself, right? Because how can you be fully 100% you when you're only listening to what other people say about you? Now all of a sudden you're not defining yourself, you're not letting God define yourself, You're letting what other people say about you define yourself. And you're never going to win that way. You will never win that way because people are in it for themselves. So if they think that they're going to get a joke out of it, then they're going to say it. If they don't think that they're going to get a joke out of it, then maybe they wouldn't say something that they should. Like, we just can't live for people. And the thing that fascinates me is that most of the people I go out of my way to make sure that they approve of me are people I don't even like. And I think that you could probably relate on this. A lot of the people who like me, I'm not as much concerned about their opinions because I'm like, they already like me. But the people who I know don't like me or who I know always have something to say, I'm waiting for their approval. I'm waiting for them to be like, wow, you did that? Good job. But they're not going to say that because they're just people who they don't like me and I don't really like them, and there's a rub there. And so I think at the core of the issue here, people pleasing starts because we're relational beings. Realizing that God created us to be relational in His image is a big just light bulb moment for me. Because if you look at animals, angels, we can't see angels obviously, but any other species, plant life, wildlife, animals, they do not operate off of what their friend is going to do. Like, animals, while they do have a sense of family or pack, like they're in a pack, they are not relational beings. They're not talking to each other, like they're making sounds. I mean, they do communicate, but what I'm trying to say is they are not living so that the other dog or the other cat will be happy with them. They operate purely off of instinct, really. But whenever God made us in His image, He made us relational. He made us with the capacity to feel emotions and to connect with other people, which is something that I don't think all of these other species have. And the desire to make somebody happy, to make somebody proud, I think is directly related with how we're supposed to feel, that drive to make God happy with us. Like, we were born, this is so cool about me, and I think in the future episodes when we talk about emotions, this is just a really key part with emotions. A lot of emotions that our sin-cursed world that we live in has taken and turned bad and really hurt us now are actually emotions that, when in their pure context, lead us closer to God. And this is one of those things. I mean, whenever you look at people pleasing, wanting to make somebody happy proud of you, that is okay, because I think that we were born to want to make God happy with us, to have that approval from God so that we could live our lives glorifying Him and doing the things that He wants us to do. So that we have this hole in our heart almost that is longing for approval, that is longing for somebody to say, good job. And I think whenever we start to shift our view to be like, okay, is God saying that or are people saying that? I mean, one day if we live for Christ, if we chase after Him, choose righteousness, He's going to say, well done, good and faithful servant. He's going to say, I'm proud of you. Good job. Well done, good and faithful servant. So there will be approval. Not all approval is bad. It's just, how do we learn to live for God's approval instead of people's approval? Because whenever we start to live for people's approval, I really do believe that the devil starts to make it a distraction. He starts to make it an idol for us. If I can just make Sally Sue, I mean, that's just the name that popped in my head. If I can make Sally Sue happy with me, then I will be complete. I know from a personal standpoint, I have made Sally Sue happy with me, and I have not been complete. I made the person who was a hater to me, who hated me, I made them happy, and it doesn't fill me up. I've also gone after the people who didn't like me that much, and I chased their approval, and guess what? They were never happy with me. They were never happy with me. My dad actually told me to do something. It's this exercise that I would 100% recommend to you. The exercise goes like this. You get a piece of paper. It's like an inch. If you're watching, you can see the paper. Like, it's just a small, like an inch by an inch piece of paper. If you don't want to do all this, that's okay. But the idea is to get some sort of writing surface. And the reason it's an inch by an inch is because it's small. It really forces you to think. Who are the opinions? Whose opinions matter to you? What people's opinions do you actually care about? Because I think we get caught up in our world of wanting to please every single person to the point where whenever we don't please one person, we get all up in our head. We're like, oh no, they don't like me, blah, 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 blah. Okay, but did their opinion really matter of you? They mistook you for something. They thought that you did something wrong and they didn't know the whole story. They assumed something about you. They didn't understand the whole story. All of a sudden we get caught up in our heads because they're like, they didn't understand the full story. But do their opinions matter to you? And whenever I started thinking about this, I even had some friends who I was like, I love them, they're my friend, but their opinion does not need to hold that weight in my life. Like, I can have fun with you, I can love you as a friend, but your opinion, depending on the level of friends we're in, doesn't have to hold weight in my life. If you say I don't approve of you, then okay, because I have such a sense of who I am and who God's called me to be, that I hear that and maybe I take it as wisdom, but what you think of me doesn't have a chokehold on me. And I think whenever we get healthy, we realize that it's really us and God who should matter. What does God think of you? And then outside of that, what I found is the people who their opinion matters to me, like what they thought about me matters to me, would be my core family and would be a few friends that I'm really close with. And these are people who I know care about me. I could go off and do the worst thing in the world and they would still love me. They would still care about me. And the cool thing about those friendships is that even when they disagree with me, they're still going to love me and care about me. So I'm not fighting for their approval because I already have it. And that's what I'm trying to get you to see. The people who their opinion truly matters to you are typically the people that you're closest with, are typically the people who know you. And they're the people who already approve of you because they know you and they love you. And yeah, whenever they say something to me, I'm a lot more open to hear what they have to say because I know that they care about me. But so often the trap I get stuck in is I really try to go after the people's opinions who don't know me. Like, they see me maybe 1 day a week, 3 days a week. I know that there was this one girl, and so I was at a public school. The last 2 years of my high school experience, I am almost done with my junior year this year, so woo, yay! I'm kind of ready to be a senior. But there was a girl, and she was on my soccer team whenever I was a freshman, a sophomore, and I'd known her for a while, and she was set. She did not really like me, and I didn't really like her, but I felt like I had to fight for her approval of me, and I fought and I fought and I fought, and she never did. Like, she kept being rude to me, she kept making comments, and the weird thing about her, it's not like she was a bully to me. There would be times when she would be nice to me, and I would see the fun parts of her, but then the other times, she would just be rude to me. She would make a comment, and she really didn't care about me. But you know what? She also didn't know me to the fullest that she knew me. And so the thing that I find really interesting, and take this how you will, is that typically the people who know me for me, who take the time to get to know me, they typically like me. They typically choose to stay in my life. I mean, obviously there are people who have chosen not to. There are people who are exceptions to that rule. But typically the friends that I've had that are loyal have stayed because they like me. They approve of me. They've said, you know what? I think that, and it's not about what you do is the other thing. Like, that's a big thing that I want to talk about is you are so much more than what you do for other people, than the accomplishments that you achieve. I struggle with that so much. I want to do all of the things in life. I want to be a straight A student. I want to be the star athlete. I want to have an amazing relationship with my walk in Christ. I want to have even career goals. I want to do all of the things that I see other people doing. I want to do those now. And I think if I do all those things, people will be happy with me and I'll be set in life. And it's all of these things that the devil uses to try to replace God in our life. It's just him dangling that fruit, the forbidden fruit in front of us and saying, well, if you get this thing, you'll be like God. You'll have all you need. You won't have to depend on God anymore. And that is so false. But back to the girl I was talking about, there was absolutely no way that I could make her happy with me. And that's whenever I think I heard the statistic one time, and I don't know if it's this exact amount, but it's kind of roughly 33% of people-ish in the world are just not going to like you. Like, no matter what you do, you could break your ACL for them and they would just not like you. You're going to have a rub with about 33% of people in the world. There's nothing you can do about it. They are just not going to like you. They're not going to approve of you. They're going to disagree. In my brain, something that helped me is I was like, okay, that's a set number. So whenever you're going through life and there's somebody who's a hater who comes to you and they're going, yeah, you did this. How, Or they're like, yeah, your hair looks really bad today. Or they're talking some sort of trash about you. They're a hater. They're judgmental. They're saying something bad. They're commenting on your life, which is something that I find so funny, is that whenever they're commenting on your life, these people who don't like you, they're commenting on your life, but they're intrigued by you. Like, I'm really convinced that this one girl who did not like me, but who always felt the need to comment on my life, she was intrigued by me. And maybe there was a little bit of that intimidation there. I think that there's times when people are intimidated by you, so they will take every single jab that they can get just to get to you. And that's really not healthy. And if that's the case, I would just say back up. Back up and say, this person really doesn't need to have weight in my life because they're trying to take every shot they can get to put themselves higher than me. But approximately like 33% of people, they're not going to like you. But then on the flip side, they're going to be like 33% of people who are going to like you. That like, they just enjoy your presence. Like, you click. I have those people in my life who I just click with them. I love them. And they're just going to enjoy you. And then you have like this other 33%, I believe, who it's like kind of either way. Like, they could like you, they could not. They're just kind of there type of situation. But whenever I come in contact now with a person who doesn't like me, I just go, oh, they're one of the 33%. Okay, moving on with life. I don't have to please them. I'll spend my time making friends, making effort with somebody who does like me, who falls within the other 66%. I'm going to spend my time with people who I know will approve of me. But again, even if people approve of me, and I say who will approve of me, I mean people who I will click with, people who I will like. When you spend a lot of time around the people who you rub with, I think it fosters that sense of having to please them. And I think that I'm talking to somebody out here right now who you're in a friend group with people that you don't even really like, but maybe you're mutual friends with somebody. Maybe you just have to be around them, but you rub, like your personalities rub. And so because of that, they always diss you, and you either feel the need to diss them back, or you feel the need to please them, to do something to make them like you. Like, and it all goes back to the root issue of, we think that if everybody in the world would like us, we would be full. If everybody in the world liked us, then okay, we're good. And that's not true. Like, it's just so not true. It's a lie straight from the enemy. It is a lie from Satan himself that if you, it goes back to worship, right? If I have people worship me, if I have everybody like me, then I will be like God. And that is such an unhealthy desire. We have to be comfortable with people not liking us. People not liking us is healthy because we're not going to like everybody else. I mean, if you look out, if you think about the people that you just came in contact with today, there are people you came in contact with that they were not your cup of tea. There were people who fall into that other category of like, I mean, they're nice, and like, we could be friends, but we could not be friends. They're just there. And then you have that other sense that you're excited to see them. They are your homie. They are your bro. You're like, yes, I love them. And you're excited to see them. But you're going to have people who you don't like. And you give yourself that freedom. And you just don't like them. You just have that rub with them. So give other people that freedom to not like you. And I think whenever we can come to terms with the fact that people aren't going to like us, and we can be okay operating and living who God has called us to be, without having to approve other people, I have watched God transform my life with that. Because I have found that I just cannot live 100% who God called me to be whenever I'm so focused of how other people view me, what other people are going to say about me. Because I will tell you right now, not everybody approves of what I'm doing right now. There were major bridges I have to cross just to do what I'm doing right now, to do half of the things. Recording this podcast, I'm going to get haters, right? Starting my social media channel, I did get haters. I had people at my high school, and, I will say, I'm surprised. I think the fear of people not liking me or not liking something I did really pushed back, did more to me than anything else. And it pushed me back into making maybe a influencing channel or whatever that was, because I was afraid of what people would think of me. But I got haters whenever I started it. I had a lot of people from my public high school that I went to at the time who, they were just like, oh, she's posting like an influencer, blah, 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 blah. But actually, whenever it came down to the reality of it, there really weren't as many people as I thought that there would be, which that's another thing is, we sometimes stop ourselves because we're scared of what people think about us. When in reality, when we just face it and do it, we find, wait a second, like, it wasn't that deep. They don't really care about it that much. And I guarantee you, the life that I've lived, I have found 9 times out of 10, if you decide to do something and you stand on both feet and you walk into that thing confident and you choose, oh my goodness, I just saw that my, sorry guys, my jean, it was like cuffed up. I don't know if y'all could even see that on the YouTube. But if you walk into something that you want to do, a goal that you have to achieve, maybe it's awkward, maybe it's weird the way you do it, but I believe 9 times out of 10 that I've done this, you walk into that, you will find that people kind of go, oh wait, if she's confident, oh, get out of the way. Like they might be thinking, what's going on here? But they're going to appreciate your confidence. They're going to go, oh, she must know what she's doing. And that's what I've done with a lot of things. And I have found that the fear, what I think people might say or do or think about me or treat me, it really does not match with how they actually treat me. It does not match with what they actually do to me. And I think that, we look in the New Testament, if the disciples had cared about, I think you know where I'm going with this, if the disciples had cared what other people thought about them, chances are the United States of America would not know the gospel, because they would not have shared the gospel. If they would have stopped the first time somebody made a hate comment about them, the first time they got thrown in prison, beaten, socially humiliated and destroyed, if they would have stopped then, if they would have stopped being who God created them to be for the sake of the appeasal of the people, then there are people in this world who may not have known who Jesus was. They wouldn't have fulfilled their purpose, and that trickles down to you and me. Do we realize that because they lived an unashamed life of the gospel, they were 100% who God created them to be originally? We now know the gospel because they spread the word. We now get to have this hope. Like, how crazy is that? And the thing is that I've seen so many times in my life, Satan has jabbed at things that God eventually later uses, because God's going to use them. He jabs at my originality, because that is what God's going to use. I believe that each one of us, whether we're shy or we're extroverted, introverted, extroverted, whether we're shy or we're outgoing, whether we're super confident or we're more just like in the background type of person, whatever your personality is, the desire, like, do you realize that God has given you those things? Because there's somebody in the world who needs to be impacted by you. There is a purpose that he wants you to fill, because somebody in the world needs to see you being original and go and be pointed towards God in that original way. Somebody needs to see you being your fullest form of yourself and go, wow, I want to be like that. I want that light. Because guess what? You're going to touch different people than I'm going to touch. Those 33% of people who don't like me might be the 33% of people who do like you. And so whenever we delude ourselves to just what the people like about us, then real change doesn't happen. Do you realize that you're lowering yourself? You are lowering yourself whenever you just live for people, because true change doesn't happen. And what you end up doing is you lose yourself. You lose yourself. You are not, like, I would not be Claudia Campbell anymore. I would just be some generic version. Baby, I don't want you to be a generic version. I want you to be name brand. I want you to be literally original. Like, be original. Be who God created you to be. And cope with truth. I think that a really good a really good solution, I don't even know the word for it. It's going to come to me. A really good solution, I'm thinking like, you know what, it's fine. A really good solution, healing to trying to live for people is coping with truth. Saying, okay, this person made me feel bad. This person made me feel like I shouldn't take up space on this planet. This person made me feel like I'm not a daughter of the king, that I don't have value because they don't like me. They don't like my decision. This person made me feel like I shouldn't be doing what I feel like God has called me to do. And so here's the mic drop moment, is the fact that you place your identity in what people say about you. We have to separate what people say about you with who you are. I heard this analogy once. I think it's absolutely spot on. Somebody said, you know, if I were to talk with you right now, if we're like, pretend we're on the phone right now, and I said, oh my goodness, I just noticed today, like, Sally Sue is wearing a purple shirt. Then you would probably be like, oh yeah, cool. You did not have an emotional response to the fact that Sally Sue is wearing a purple shirt. Neither do I. Why? Because you have disassociated the fact that who she is, Sally Sue, from her purple shirt. Like, in your mind, this is just somebody saying an observation about somebody. Okay? Has nothing to do with you. It's just somebody, and they're speaking words about somebody else in this purple shirt. Okay, she's wearing a purple shirt. Does not change my life. I think we have to do this, and visuals really help me. Picture yourself in a bubble. This is my shield bubble. Somebody tells me, I hate your hair today. You're too short. I don't like that mark on your face. I don't like that scar that you have. You go, okay. Why? Because their opinion, typically, their opinion falls into the category of people who you don't want to carry the weight of what their opinion matters. Like, their opinion doesn't really matter to you. And you're going to say, okay, because, and that comment is going to rest on that bubble, and then it's just going to slide off. Because they're making a comment about life, but it has nothing to do with who you are. You're not going to let it inside. Oh no, I think I just covered up the microphone on accident. But you're not going to let it inside because it has nothing to do with who you are, right? Like, they're describing something about you, but you didn't ask for their opinion. They're not somebody who their opinion matters to you. Don't let it stay in there. Because truth be matter, like, they're not God. They don't really know you. They don't know everything about you, and their opinion can be their opinion. They can say, you know, I don't approve that you're choosing to start this podcast, Claudia. Okay. And that opinion is just going to come on the bubble and slide right. Why? Because I believe God has said you need to do this. And that is separate. That is separate from me. So we have to separate what people say about you from who you are. And realize, like, this is always going to be a struggle. Putting your identity in what people say about you is so real. And so this is just kind of the type of thing that I do whenever I feel like I'm starting to place my identity a little bit too much in what people say about me, is I'll start to go, you know what? No, I'm a daughter of the king. I'm not what they say about me. In fact, their words have such little power against the word of God and what he says about me. It can't even stand. Like, it doesn't even compare. Whenever I believe the words of them over the words of God himself, I'm saying that their words are stronger than God's. No, God's word is way more powerful than their words will ever be. There is nothing that they can do to change who I am at the core of my being. Why? Because I'm an ambassador. I am a daughter of the King. You might be a son of the King. I'm a child of God. That means I have power. I have the Holy Spirit. I am a dwelling place of the Holy Spirit. I was made to be holy. I was made to glorify. I have a purpose. God likes my personality. God created my personality. Yeah, I have sin issues that I'm dealing with. But who I am as a daughter of the King, and that gives me worth, and that gives me power, and it doesn't matter what anybody says about me. If I am walking a righteous life, if I'm spending time in the Word, if I am dwelling in God's presence and choosing to be around Him, ask Him for advice and pray, I believe He's going to lead me in the direction I need to go. And if He says you need to do this thing, I'm going to do it despite what other people say, despite how weird it looks for other people. Why? Because I am living heaven-bound. I'm not living earth-bound. And if I was living earth-bound, then it would be very empty. And yeah, I could live for people, because that would be the best affirmation I'm going to get. But one day, if I choose to live righteous, am not going to have the rewards that come on earth for being righteous and prospering, but I'm going to have God Himself, the true fulfillment, that hole in my heart, that relational gap was made for, say, well done, my good and faithful servant, if I choose to live righteously, unabandoned for Him. But I'm gonna have that fulfillment. Like, it's not going to be empty. You are living heaven bound. Son, daughter, those words have no power over you. So say, you know what? I'm choosing tomorrow. I'm walking to school today. Whatever you're doing, I challenge you right now. Make the decision right now. Those things do not have power over me. They cannot have power over me, because I know who I am. And what God says about me is more powerful than what humans say about me. This is going to be a daily struggle. It's always going to be a daily struggle. It's not going to be easy. So what we have to do is we have to make a daily decision of, how does that look like now? How can I do it in this moment? How can I choose to live for God, not people? God says, like in His Word, the first commandment is love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength. If you're living for the opinions of people, you can't be living for God. I mean, 1 John even talks about it. If you're living for the world, you can't be living for God. They are two separate things. And therefore, if we want to live for God with all of our heart, soul, mind, and strength, we have to take down the things of this world and go, you know what? It doesn't matter what they think of me, what they say about me. I'm going to live on purpose the way God intended for me to live, because that is important. Because He called me to live that way. And I'm not going to ruin those heavenly rewards. I'm not going to ruin the fulfillment of doing God's work just because Sally Sue doesn't like what I'm doing. Sally Sue keeps popping up a lot, actually. But Sally Sue can go somewhere, okay? And sometimes I just say, you know what? Sometimes it's good to even say out loud to yourself, stop. If you find yourself in that mental just spiral of, oh no, what are they going to think? What are they going to think? What are they going to think? I just breathe and go, okay, stop. And I think, what does God think about me right now in this moment? I'm nervous. Like, that was one of the things today, my math test. I was talking about it. It's like, oh no, what are my teachers going to think about me? What are my friends going to think about me? Are people going to think I'm smart? Are people going to think I'm uneducated if I fail this test? If I get a bad grade on this test? And you spiral out of control. What are people going to think? Are my friends going to think I'm dumb? Am I going to feel like I'm lifeless? Here's the thing. Worst thing that could happen, the worst thing that happened today is, what if I failed the test, right? And what if my friends think I'm dumb? Does that mean I'm dumb? No. And in fact, if the teacher, if some of the people at my school thought I was dumb, most of their opinions, while they're ones that I would love to hear, and I love them dearly, when it comes down to the core of my being, they're not God. I don't hold the weight of how they view me and how they see me as truth, because I know that they don't know the whole story. Do they know if I'm really smart or educated or not, or a hard worker or not, just based off of one test. No. And that's a trivial thing. That's a little thing. But in life, all sorts of things. It could be your coach. It could be something completely different. But it doesn't it doesn't matter. Like, whenever it comes down to it, I found that the fear of them thinking, well, what are they going to think about me? To them, it's not even that deep. To them, they're thinking about what everybody else is thinking about, how other people view them. They're not thinking about, oh, yeah, there's Claudia. She doesn't work hard. She's uneducated. In fact, that's a lie that the enemy is doing to propel me to live for them. He's saying, hey, they probably think this about you. You should start living for them. No. And notice he doesn't do, like, with God never says that, like, you're dumb and smart and I hate you. No, he says, I love you, I forgive you, I accept you, even whenever I mess up. But we have to stop blowing these sort of things out of proportion because we're scared. Because we think, what if? Well, maybe if they're not one of the few people on your name that matters to you, then let it go and say, you know what? I'm in this spiral. I am afraid of what people think today. I'm afraid, what if this happens? What if this happens? And then I remind myself of truth. Okay, but what does God say about me? I'm afraid my math teacher, my friends are going to think I'm dumb if I do bad on this test. But what does God say about me? God says, hey, I've given you a brain that's fully capable. I see your hard works. I see your efforts. I know what you're doing whenever nobody's watching. And so even if you get a bad grade at this math test, I know that you're not dumb. You're very knowledgeable in other ways. I see that you're, like, you might be knowledgeable when it comes to music. You might be knowledgeable when it comes to art. But, like, just because they see one side, and it's so funny to me. Please don't take this example, which is funny because I'm saying this, because I probably care about how you guys see me. But I would say that I am pretty good at math. And so because I was, like, that just goes to show even the things that you would say you're confident in, there are times when you're going to feel like you have to make people happy with it. That you have to continue to make people proud of you, even on something where you would say that God would look at you and go, you're doing a good job on that. You're doing your work unto me. That's a major thing, is God's like, hey, I want you to do your work under me. But sometimes God's level for work unto me in a specific scenario is here. And to make people happy, it would be here. And so one thing he's really teaching me right now, and for those of you just listening, the here is lower. God's approval sometimes can be lower than the standard that even other people would hold us to. Sometimes other people would require us to do two times more the things for them to acknowledge that we're good at something, for them to acknowledge our presence. And that's not to say slack off. Sometimes God's view of work is, sometimes doing our work unto him is greater than what other people would say to do. But it's, how do I focus on God? I need to focus on God and say, God, I'm going to do this unto you. I'm going to live my life in a way that you have called me, in a way that you are happy with. Not to the view of other people, because that is not going to be consistent or steady. But God will be so consistent, and he will be so steady for you. And I just truly believe whenever we start to make the decision, okay, I'm letting go the weight of people, which I think that I did this a little bit ago, and it changed my life. Freshman year, I was so crippled with how people saw me. Literally crippled. I could not move just one thing. I mean, sophomore year, I started coming out of my shell a little bit more. I was really scared of the popular people, believe it or not, because I was like, what they think of me matters, which I shouldn't have thought, because people are people. But I was like, what the popular people think of me, like, that's what matters. And in reality, it didn't. And whenever I talked with them, they didn't think bad of me. They weren't super judgmental. I mean, some of them were, obviously. But I found that it really wasn't that deep. Like, if I spoke to them, I wasn't going to cancel myself. Like, it really wasn't as deep as I made it out to be. Sophomore year, I started coming out of my shell more and was like, hey, no. Like, you got to be who God created you to be. And God created you to be a bold extrovert who loves talking to people, who comes out of your shell. And I think that around my sophomore year, that's whenever I started doing my social media channels. And that was just a bold act of confidence of, you know what, I'm just going to step out into this. Sometimes I think we need an action that really proves to us, wait, we can do this. I can beat the fear. I can do it afraid. And so even if you're scared, that's one of my encouragements, even if you're scared of what people are going to think about you, do it anyway. Do it scared. If you're afraid about what that popular person is going to say about you or think about you after you have a conversation with them, okay, have a conversation with them afraid. You can be scared and have a conversation with them. And then what you teach your brain is like, I can be scared of what people think and not stop having a full life. You trick yourself kind of, but then after a while you realize what people think really doesn't matter about me. It doesn't change my immediate life. I mean, there is a healthy sort of sense of you need to care about your reputation. But by what I'm saying is you need to care more about what God thinks about you. You need to care about how has God called me to live originally. You need to live originally the way that God created you to be. And as you can tell, I feel like my brain is starting to go out. So I'm just going to close and say I have found so much freedom whenever I stopped living for people's approval. God's taken me to higher places I could have ever imagined simply because I said, yes, I'm going to start living for God. And I'm going to stop living for how people see me. And it's like an immediate weight was just lifted. Because it was hard at first to rewire my brain, to teach my brain that people's opinion wouldn't be the death of me. But now it's become a habit, and I truly believe that it can become a habit for you too. And so, yeah, I just really hope that after this podcast episode, you're able to drop the weight of people's opinions of you at Jesus' feet. So this one goes out to the people pleasers out there. Thank you for joining me on this first lovely episode of the No Haters Club. I love spending it with you, and I hope that you will be back next Tuesday for another amazing episode. Go follow the No Haters Club podcast Instagram. Go follow my Instagram. All the things should be in the show notes. I love you guys so much, and don't forget, we would always love you to be a new member of the No Haters Club. All right, I'll see you guys next Tuesday. Bye, guys.